Good day, everyone. For our 10th lesson on reading and writing, we will be talking about literature review. So, for today's lesson, we will be defining what a literature review is, why do we write a literature review, and how do we write a literature review. So, literature, more often than not, when we hear or encounter the word literature, more often than not, we think about fiction books. We think about Holmes. We think about Shakespeare, or even Harry Potter comes into our minds. But however, literature is not confined to those genres. Literature could refer to any collection of materials on a topic, and it doesn't necessarily have to be great literary texts of the world. Now, a literature review is simply a discussion of published information in a particular or about a particular subject area. It can be just a simple summary of the resources, okay, so where you got the information from. However, it typically has a structural pattern and combines both summary and synthesis. So let's try to differentiate the two. What is a summary and what is a synthesis? A summary is basically a recap of significant information of the source. So, what was the information that was presented on the literature that you just see or you just read? Okay, so you are just trying to say those things again, say the information over again. Now, synthesis, it's different in a way because it's a reorganization of the information, which actually might present or give new interpretations of the material that you have just read. So, summary basically is still loyal to the information that was initially presented. Okay, and whereas synthesis could include new pieces or new interpretations of the literature that you have just consumed. Now, why do we write literature reviews? There are many reasons as to why we write literature reviews. The first one is because we want to give a convenient guide to a particular topic. So, we want people to understand this particular topic, especially if it's in terms of research or in terms of academic purposes. Other people might find it difficult to understand, particularly information that are not written in layman's terms. So, a literature review enables those types of readers to have a brief background, to have a brief idea of what that particular topic is being discussed. Next, literature reviews can also provide an overview or a summary, especially if there's limited time to conduct research, like what I have just mentioned. More often than not, non-readers of academic texts would find it difficult to understand um, certain pieces of information. So instead of them going going back and checking or conducting a research of their own about those particular topics just so they could understand what you are talking about, then it's your responsibility as a writer of the the research to give them an overview or at least a summary of what is it going to be all about. Next, literature reviews also analyze, synthesize, and critically evaluate information to better give a clear picture of the subject or the topic. Like what I have mentioned earlier, literature reviews will better give them an idea of what this particular topic is going to be all about, or what this particular text is going to be all about. Now, how do we write a literature review? Writing a literature review may be a painstaking task, especially if you're not really into research or you're not really into reading. Okay. However, there are certain steps that we can take to ensure that we can produce at least a good literature review. Okay, so the first thing that you can do is search for relevant literature. And by relevant, we only mean pieces of information that are connected to the topic that you are going to be discussing or talking about on your research or your academic paper. So how do we do that? The first thing that you have to remember is that your topic should be clearly defined. Okay, so the topic has to be clear first and foremost. Once you have decided on the specific topic, then that's the time that you can choose a focus and then develop a central question to direct your search. If you try to formulate a question that is related to your topic, take for example, what are the things that are gonna be related, or what are your anticipated questions about that particular topic, then those are the questions that could help you identify relevant literature. Because in a way, you are trying to prepare for what's to come. Okay, so you are already trying to find answers that will support, or um, literature rather, or information that will support your future interpretations of a particular topic. So take for example this one. If you have your research question such as what is the impact of social media on the body image among Generation Z, then the first thing that you can do is make a list of related keywords. Which of these words do you think would be relevant or would be of aid to you, would help you look for other pieces of information? Okay, so take for example on this one, you can use the words social media, Facebook, mental health, teenagers in searching for related or relevant literature. And then after which, you can search for relevant sources. Okay, not because it appears on the internet, you will consider it as something that is credible. The source is credible. Make sure that the information or the literature that you're going to get, okay, or the literature where you're going to get your information from is published, properly published and peer-reviewed source or reference. Now, those pieces of literature or those kinds of literature could be found on sources such as, or on websites such as JSTOR, Google Scholar, Project News, even your university library, even the library that you have, and others. Okay, so more often than not, we don't use Wikipedia as sources of information, but rather try to look for websites that cater to more academic writing. Okay, now, whenever you are trying to find relevant literature, you can also take note of recurring citations. So, take for example, once you have found several pieces of literature that you could use as sources of information, now try to identify if there are certain citations that keep on appearing over and over again. Now, if the same authors, books, or articles keep appearing in all the things that you are reading, or in most of the things that you are reading as part of your literature review, make sure that you seek them out. That means that all of the other authors before you, all of the other writers before you, believe or already had that belief that that particular source of information is credible enough. Okay, so that's already a very reliable source of information. Next, the second step in writing a literature review is evaluating your sources. Make sure that the sources you use are credible, like what I have mentioned earlier. It's not enough that you just got it from the internet, you got it from a website, and you just included it on your literature review. That's incorrect. Okay, so make sure that the website is credible. Make sure that it is something that is used by many other people or many other scholars, many other writers before you could even use it as your own. So some guide questions that could help you to identify if the source is credible. What question or problem is the author addressing? What are the key concepts and how are they defined? What are the key theories, models, and methods? What are the results and conclusions of the study? As you can see, all of these are relevant information that could be found on a research paper. So most of the relevant or credible sources of information are actually researches, past researches, and articles that discuss different or various types of research questions. And then you can also acknowledge how the publication relate to other pieces of literature in the same field. Would it be a confirmation? Would it add to that to that field? Or does it actually challenge some established form of knowledge? The next one is, how do the publication contribute to your understanding of the topic? It's not enough that just because it contains the same words that you do have on your research question, it's already related. That's an incorrect thinking. You have to understand that that particular literature that you have chosen has to support whatever is going to be your interpretation of, or whatever is going to be your understanding of your own research or your own writing. You have to identify its key insights and arguments and try to identify if these actually would be of help to you. Okay? Now, when writing literature review, it is very important that you keep track of your sources, especially sources with citations, because we are trying to avoid plagiarism. And we all know that plagiarism is a crime and it's punishable by law. Now, how do we do that? You can do that by using an annotated bibliography. The third step in writing a literature review is identifying the themes, debates, and gaps. So you are trying to find issues or probable concerns regarding that particular topic. Understand the connections and relationships between the sources that you have just read. Are they really related to one another, and how are they connected to one another? Do they support each other? Do they contradict one another, and so on and so forth? Because in that way, you will be able to prepare yourself for future questions about your very own write-up. Now, how do we do that? You can look at trends and patterns, especially in theory, method, or results. You can also look at the themes. If all of the literature or the literature that you have gathered has the same theme. You can also look at debates, conflicts, and certain contradictions among them. And then you can also discover pivotal publications. It's a type of publication that contributed largely to the development of that particular field or idea. And then, of course, try to address the gaps. What could be issues or concerns that certain people might have about that particular write-up or particular topic? The fourth step is outlining the structure. You can actually follow different types of outline for your literature review. The first one is your chronological outline. Chronological outline simply refers to a type of organization, a type of outlining that follows the time element of the information. So by chronological, we have time as our major component. You try to arrange, you try to form the structure by following the time order. Next is thematic. For this type of outline, you arrange your ideas, the pieces of information that you have gathered based on the theme that they have. So ideas that share the same theme are grouped together, and so on and so forth. The next one is methodological outline. So trying to follow a method or methodology. And then the next one is theoretical. Now for this one, you try to arrange the outline based on the theory that you will be using or you will be utilizing for your research or literature review. The fifth step is writing your literature review. Well, you need to, of course, as basic as it may sound, you need to write your introduction. And then next, you write the body containing the information. And then of course, you try to write you end your literature review with the conclusion. So this is an example of a literature review. Here are my sources and references for this lecture. Thank you for watching.